First thing I want to say is Happy New Year. This is January 2023. This is the first CBC meeting of the month. Our Secretary Treasurer, will you please do roll call?
Okay, at this time, Chairman, we will take a roll of CBC. Mark Wimavoya, Chairman.
Here.
Dr. Cornell Pee Wee Wardy, Vice Chairman. Hazel Tassequah, Committee Woman number 1.
Here.
Ross Carrara, Committeeman number 2.
Here.
Alice Casnavoyd, Committee Woman number 3.
Here.
Robert Comachee Jr., Committeeman number 4.
Here.
You have a quorum, Chairman.
I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda for today.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda. Can I get a second?
Second.
We got a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yes.
We have a motion to approve the agenda. All
Yes.
abstain? All who don't approve the motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, John David, do you abstain? To approve the motion? To approve the agenda?
I abstain.
You abstain?
I abstain.
Okay, we have 1 abstain, 2 approve, 2 against. Guess I get a vote on this one. So we will approve the agenda that we have currently. Okay, agenda is approved. At this time, we are honored to have Michael Keybone, the lead pastor of First Baptist Church. He is the first Comanche and Native American to lead the First Baptist Church as a lead pastor. I call him Bone. Bone, will you please lead us in the invocation?
I'd be honored to do so. Let's pray. Father God, we come to you today. And Lord, we know that you are God of all, almighty, all powerful. God, you see what we can't see. You know what we don't know. And God, today I ask for wisdom, that God, you would lead by your way and in your power. Lord, thank you for your watch care over our people. Lord, our people have been through so much, been through a lot. But God, you've always been good to us. You've always shown your hand on us. And so God, I pray that you continue that today, that Lord, in this time as we do business, that God, your spirit would prevail in all of it, that your hand would be in it. Thank you for all you do for us. And watch over us. Be with those that are sick right now, that need your healing. Be with those that are needy, that God need an extra hand. Lord, I pray that you would help provide for them. And Lord, for those that live in fear and anxiety over the things that are going on around us, that God, you would bring your peace. Lord, we love you. We give all these things to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Keybone. Okay, at this time, CBC, look over the December minutes, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for
We have a
December
motion to approve the
2022.
minutes. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, we have a second. All in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion has passed. Minutes have been approved. So next on the agenda is our executive and general counsel reports. As your chairman, I attended all required meetings for the month of December. I want to say thank you to our programs who honored our elders for our elders dinner and our elders program at the Coliseum. It was a great honor to see all of our elders. They enjoyed it. They enjoyed seeing each other, and they also enjoyed getting their elders checks. So I want to thank our programs for that. All right, Vice Chairman.
Good morning. It's good to see everybody. Glad to see so much participation, especially in this day and age of COVID as we come out. So we're blessed with your voice. These past few years, it's been pretty silent. My desire is to really see you here so we can talk to you face to face. There's nothing about face to face. There's nothing better. So I'm blessed that you're all here and we can have good conversations, but not just here, but because of who you represent. My report is really very short, minimal, because I attend all the required meetings that I have, a part of all entities, and so I attend those. But I'm also active in the community. This past January, this past December, I was really honored to be a part of the Oklahoma Council for Indian Education because I'm an advocate for our children, cradle-board to grave. And so we were able to pass some resolutions that advance our self-determination in education. So I just thought I'd share that with you. But that's a collaboration with a lot of work that we have with educators all over the state of Oklahoma and the Midwest. But sitting in front of us is one of our award winners, Cindy Famero. I know we gave her a shout out last month, but I think it's not enough to give a shout out to those individuals that accomplished so much, especially for the state of Oklahoma, to be named the Indian Parent of the Year. I think that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal for any of us, and that she is a Comanche citizen. I attended the Fort Sill Apache litigation, at the federal courthouse in Oklahoma City. Happy to represent the CBC in that. So that's ongoing. And the Elders Day and the employees get-togethers, I attend those, and also had a conversation with Christian Bowes about planning an educational summit that I'd like to unfold later on. But those are basically the highlights I'd like to share with you besides attending all the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Secretary Treasurer.
As Secretary Treasurer, I perform the duties cited within the Comanche Nation Constitution, Article 12, duties of the officers. We make sure that we maintain all records. I work with Finley and Cook, a CPA firm, to make sure that all financial information is properly conducted and monitored, and I work with them on that very closely. We also ensure that the records and the keeping of the minutes of all the tribal council and legal quorum business committee meetings is done. We've appointed Dodson Court Reporting Company. Thank you for taking care of that responsibility. Responsible for sending all notices of legal meetings, ensure that tribal employees keep copies of all such notices and requests for meetings, ensure that such notices are mailed and published, ensure that copies of all minutes of the tribal council and legal quorum business committee meetings and resolutions are sent to the Anadarko agency. As far as the ARP report is concerned, there has been a breach. One of the local nearby tribes was their financial information has been breached. They had to close one of their casinos. Because of that, we're going to take extra precautionary measures. We're not going to be discussing dollars and cents where anyone and everyone can see what we have to offer. So we're concerned at this time. We've also started the process of looking through all of our software in our gaming operations, on our computers in the tribal government, our computers in gaming. We're taking every effort that we can to ensure that we don't get hacked. And this is very serious right now, so we're watching it very carefully. So as the ARP report, I'm going to kind of give you a basic scenario of it. We have a little over around 1.1 million left in the home repair, and for rental assistance, around 345,000. We have spent approximately 82% of the whole ARP budget went directly to the Comanche people. The remaining balance is somewhere around 16 million. Also, audits. The tribal government program, Julia Mansky, tribal administrator, audits are up to date, completed, no financial findings, in the process of completing 2022. Tax Commission, Harley Pennington, tax administrator, years 2018, 2019, completed, no financial findings. In the process of completing 20, 21, and 22. The Comanche Nation Entertainment, Enterprise, George Tatanapa, acting director. Audits are up to date and complete, no financial findings, in the process of completing 2022. Comanche Nation Housing Authority, Russell Sossaman, director, completed 2021 audit covering all programs at the Housing Authority, no financial findings at this time. Contracts for the judicial services between the Comanche Nation and the Comanche Nation District Court will have to be finalized. Resolution 07-2023 and Resolution 08-2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer. Okay, moving into our committee and board reports from the CBC. Our first one is Indian Health Board, CBC member number 3.
Okay, we meet on the first Thursday of every month, so we just met on Thursday. They have ongoing renovations at the pharmacy. They are getting ready to start renovations for the emergency room. That they have been planning that for the last 10 years. It's taken a really long time for that. If any of our tribal members have any complaints, you can, with the hospital, they need to be directed toward the patient advocate at the hospital to start the complaint. And if you have any questions and concerns, they go to the patient advocate, and then that's where you go to get any of your concerns started. And then, what else? Whenever they get the complaint from the patient advocate, then she passes them on to the board, and then that's when we review them. Thank you.
Thank you, CBC member number 3. Calf and Cow Program, CBC member number 4.
Yeah, let me brief December's last month's report. The background and purpose of the cow-calf program began in 2021, funded by the new monies from the business committee with a goal to reclaiming our tribal lands for the beef cattle production to supply our tribal businesses, and for the elder centers with premium beef. The rail department manages a cow-calf program, terminated 8 long-term leases with over 1,100 acres of land for ranching taken back for sovereignty for our tribe. December highlights: there was no calves born in December, 21 calves, wings, and vaccinated, 23 black Angus heifers were purchased. 1 cattle death was due to the cold weather and cold spells. The Comanche Nation owns 129 head of cattle at this time. 7 heifers are due at this time. The CAF program still has a remaining budget of $290,000 in there for board. And our advisory board, I don't know if I mentioned it last month, but the advisory board is, we have Ron Redout, his former CBC meeting, and Tim McIntosh, a cattle rancher. And from the realty department staff, we have Tony Comanche, agriculture manager, Kim Ferguson, administration assistant, and Randall Baker, realty specialist. And the director of it is Stephen Lee. I want to give these people a thank, because I think they're doing a real good job for the CalCAF reporting our business.
Okay. Thank you, CBC member number 4. For the Conservation District, this month we didn't have a meeting. Tax Commission, Secretary Treasurer.
The Tax Commission is presently increasing its efforts to generate revenue through collection of taro fees and collection of fees to use the Comanche Nation seal. In addition, the Oil and Gas Department will begin sending letters to operators informing them that they may be subject to additional taxes when operating on tribal lands. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is the KCA. I'll give that report. As the KCA, we're in the process of hiring a new KCA director. Last month, we interviewed 3. We decided to open it up for more applicants at this time. So that's all I have for KCA. For Comanche Nation Housing Authority, CBC member number 3.
That one was not on the agenda. That was initially provided to me, so I can write one up and give it next
Okay.
month.
All right, perfect. Okay, moving right along.
I have a question. You said you attend all the meetings. Do you attend the work session meetings? Y'all get together?
There is no work session meetings.
They indicated that, is there not?
The work sessions, I request to have work sessions, but nobody responds except,
Can I ask why nobody responds?
No one communicates. They put the message out, no one responds to it.
Why? Why don't you respond? I mean,
I respond to all of them.
okay, but you don't go?
I have other meetings. They call these meetings at the last minute. Next.
It's for the Indian Health Board. Last month at the summit in Washington, D.C., I believe you attended that. There was a huge item that was, there was a big item that was, that they wanted to vote on, and that was the IHS contract, gosh, just lost my words. It was the budget. And that was a huge item at that time they were voting on. Is there any status of that? The reason they were going to vote on that is they wanted it to be the same as the veterans budget currently in the U.S. Basically, when the government shuts down, VA keeps going, and it would be the same for IHS. That way, there would never be, when the government shuts down, IHS wouldn't be affected. Is
I
there a
didn't attend the summit in Washington,
Do
D.C.,
you have a-
so I don't know.
answer for that?
No, but I
The
can find out.
status?
That's a good question. I'll find out for you.
Okay.
I have another question. IHS, they had, when they built that extension, they said 15 shares more, they were gonna have that many, they were gonna have that many dentists. You can't get in to get an appointment, now they're taking appointments. And you can't get in to get an appointment, and then I've tried Anadarko, and they take appointments first of the month, and, you know, it's hard to get in there. Why can't we have, like we have in Tomtree, have their eyes checked? Why can't we have a dentist that can come in and do, you know, x-rays and fillings and cleanings here, just like we have in the optometry department? And also maybe think about an AM/PM clinic, because the people at the Indian Hospital sit there for hours and hours, you know, just to get in, and it may be something simple where they could, we had an AM/PM clinic, they could come and not have to sit there for days.
We
Those
did
are
have a,
suggestions.
we did have a tribal member come, and he was given 5 minutes to talk about giving a proposal to start a new clinic with the tribes, but he was only given 5 minutes to talk, so.
Oh, well. we
That
need
is a
to-
wonderful suggestion.
I know, why can't the tribe do that, though? If we're gonna check our eyes, let's check our teeth and have You know, because I told Dave, said, well, maybe next March or something, and I said, wow.
We have our budget hearings, and if those programs, you know, with the TA, if they want to, you know, try to do something like that, then we can discuss that this week.
Well, isn't that y'all's decision?
No, we can also, you can also bring it up at general council, the people's meeting. That's a great idea.
I know, but can't y'all get together and do something like that, get it started?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I'm.
okay. Our first resolution, Resolution 012023.
What about
enrollment
Comanche Nation Enterprises?
Say again?
Comanche Nation Enterprises? Is anybody going to do a report on that?
Per the charter, we only have to give an annual, one-time-a-year meeting.
So you don't have to report to the people except for one
And I sent an email to you guys in
time?
October, and nobody responded. And then I mentioned it in November that we needed to set a meeting for the quarter, and nobody responded. So it kind of works both ways, so.
It's a report to the people, not to us as CBC.
Okay.
You don't want to talk about what's going on?
Well, we can add it next month because it's not on the agenda.
It's not on this agenda that I was
We can add
given
it
the
next
first
month.
time when I picked
Okay.
up my book, and
Okay.
it's not on this one either.
Okay,
Sounds good.
moving on. Enrollment resolution, Resolution 102023. CBC member number 3, will you please read that resolution?
Yes, starting at the second whereas, the list includes the names of applicants who have been verified as eligible pursuant to Article 3, Section 1C, membership of the Constitution of the Comanche Nation, which states all descendants of allottees eligible for membership under the provision of Section 1A of the article having 1/8 degree or more of Comanche Indian blood, and now therefore be it resolved that the Comanche Business Committee accept the verification of eligibility for the applicants as shown on list number 1265 by the Comanche Nation Enrollment Office. And be it further resolved that the Comanche Nation Enrollment Office notify the eligible applicant by letter of their approved membership, and further that the enrolled member be provided information concerning their enrollment, including name, date of birth, roll number, social security number, and degree of Comanche blood. Names on list number 1269, Ziamora Chandler, Tyga Cruz, Joseph Esparza, Selena Morales, Miles Morris, Lucas Naquati, Connor Naquati, Peyton Pennington, Namari Fuentes, Jose Rodriguez, Kaya Taisakai, and Caden Tolis.
Okay, I need a motion to accept Resolution 012023.
Make a motion.
Motion made by Secretary Treasurer. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by CBC member number 1. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, resolution passes. Next resolution, enrollment resolution, resolutions 022022. Ms. Castavoid, will you please read that resolution?
Yes, resolution number 02-2023, starting at the second whereas. The list includes the names of applicants who have been verified as eligible pursuant to Article 3, Section 1C, membership of the Constitution of the Comanche Nation, which states all descendants of allottees eligible for membership under the provision of Section 1A of the article having 1/8 or more degree of Comanche Indian blood. And whereas the list of applicants are considered adults but have not been enrolled in any other tribe, and the documentary evidence is on file with the Enrollment Office, and now therefore be it resolved that the Comanche Business Committee accept the list verification of eligibility for the applicant shown on list number 1270 by the Comanche Nation Enrollment Office, and be it further resolved that the Comanche Nation Enrollment Office notify the eligible applicant by a letter of their approved membership, and further that the enrolled member be provided information concerning their enrollment, including name, date of birth, roll number, social security number, and degree of Comanche blood. Those on list number 1270, Samantha Richardson and Deja Seeley.
I need a motion to accept Resolution 02-2023.
Make a motion to accept it.
Motion made by CBC member number 4. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by our secretary, our vice chairman. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Resolution passes. Our next resolution, Realty Resolution, Resolution 03-2023. Mr. Carrara, will you please read that resolution?
Yes. All right. Resolution number 03-2023, Realty Resolution authorizing the Bureau of Indian Affairs to lease trust land where the Comanche Nation owns over 5% interest, whereas the Comanche Nation owns unfractionated interest over 5% in several tracts of trust land, which requires a resolution to be passed in order for the BIA to lease. And whereas the CBC hereby finds it acceptable for the Anadarko Agency to proceed with profitable farming and grazing leases on individual allotted trust properties where the Comanche Nation owns over 5% interest in the following tracts. Comanche Track 802-2034, Comanche Track 802-2037, 802-204-D, 802-2321, 802-2323, and 802-2731. Now therefore it be resolved that the CBC hereby authorizes the Comanche Nation Chairman to execute the attached BIA acceptance of owner to lease forms for the above mentioned tracts.
Thank you.
Are there names attached to those tracts?
Yes, there are.
Can you tell us the names of those tracts?
Yes, ending in 2034, Tarana, ending in 2037, May Ori, ending in 2040-D, Oder, ending in 2321, Tabier, ending in 2323, Tachabidi, 2731, Trichaksu.
Are we notifying any of the families that if there are any on those tracts at our level, do we know that?
Stand by. We have our Realty Director here. Realty Director.
Good morning. Yes, the family's notified. Excuse me. They actually have, they've actually contacted me. There were some discrepancies with the lease payment amount, as well as I had some questions. But the information was provided to us at the end of November, and the BIA didn't get back with us until later on in December. So we have, actually they were upset. The family member was a little bit upset because they had missed their Christmas lease amount payment. And what had happened is the tribe owns over 5% interest. And that requires a CBC resolution. So I didn't bring forth a resolution because I didn't get the proper information from the BIA yet. Once I received that information, I brought it forward. So the tribe owns over 5%, 20% interest is what is being paid to us, but we actually own 17% interest. So there's a little bit of discrepancy there. The tribal members want their payment though. So I'm working out the lease amounts with the tribal members just to get them paid.
In the book that sits at the reception desk, I know I've said it time and time again, that needs to be public information and it needs to be posted in our Comanche newsletter. Are we ever gonna do that?
She's referring to the tribal members that have passed and probates. There are probates. That is not, it could be put in our paper. That'd be a great idea. It used to go to the realty office. It doesn't come here anymore to our office.
Okay.
But it's good information to have. Tribal
Okay.
members would know who passed.
Okay. Mike?
Along that same vein, it'd be nice that we did get publication in the paper, at least by name, tract and county. I, for one, you all don't know it, but you have maybe 2% or less of ownership in the tracts I'm in Caddo County. And so my question to you all is, how can I buy that land back from you all? Get your minority interest out. Number one, it takes tribal council to approve sale of trust lands. Number two, you cannot hold it up if tribal council says to sell it back to one of the landowners. So this is a question that should go before our Constitution. Let's go back to last January, maybe February, when there was a discussion on having a constitutional convention and making adjustments to our Constitution. Because ladies and gentlemen, those of us who can afford to buy out smaller pieces, 2%, or is it 3%, Stephen? 5%, if we can afford to buy that out, because if you got 5% of 20 acres, what worth is it to the nation to hold on to that and to hold us back as individual landowners to develop it or live on it? And that has held up many a tribal member because not all family members are told what tracts they own. And the younger generation is not keeping up with it. And I was one of those younger generations, not knowing I had land, and when I go to the BIA, I don't have $1 in there for 10 or 12 years that was collected. So I'm asking of you all to consider this, and to tribal council, that tribal council approves a constitution that tribal members can buy back from the nation that land which it was given by the federal government due to lack of wills or lack of living heirs. The nation at one time in 2007 or so lost out on several tracts of 100 or 160 acres because we were not notified, next of kin were not notified by the BIA because they couldn't find us. So those lands did not go out of trust, but they went to non-Comanche owners, and one was a Thibault. So we need to have this consideration in our Constitution as well as here on the floor. But,
All right, thank you, Mike. And we'll work with Mr. Lee during that.
Weren't the small tracts that the tribe belong to family members that had deceased, like you said, and left no will? Why would we have to buy it back when it was our families, when they got it?
because they can't give it away.
Well,
They
we got
can't
a
give it
dollar.
away unless we need tribal council to help them. But if it's less than 2% or 5%,
Right.
and you're talking about a 40-acre tract and 50 people on there, so they only have 10, 20 square foot.
Yeah, they're on
So
one of
why
those.
should they hang on to it if the families want to develop that land for themselves or put home sites on there? So we, tribal council, we need our constitution to specify that the tribe should notify the members before they take possession of it. So we don't go through this rigmarole of who owns it and how to sell it, because they're forbidden. Federal law says they can't sell any land if it's in trust.
Okay,
Right.
One more question.
thank you, Mike.
But
Sir,
the
sir,
Fort
yeah.
Seal, we pay.
Go ahead,
They pay
Stephen.
us $1 for all of Fort Seal. I mean, they could pay us $1.
Tribe has the ability to make our own laws, and we can actually set the priority of how that interest is conveyed. We can leave it within our own tribal members. We can not accept that percent. That's automatically given to the tribe. So there are options that we can look into. That's a big issue too. Sometimes it goes out of Comanche Nation ownership. We own interest in several tracts of land that are off our reservation that nothing can be done with. But we can only control lands within our reservation. But we have the ability to make laws to correct these matters.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee. Secretary Treasurer?
When you look at the Constitution, it's clear in there that the Business Committee has the authority to propose resolutions along with any member of the nation. Realty Director, I would like for you to look into this more closely, get us all the regulations on this, the federal regulations on this. And I think, Mike, I think you're on the right track, because I'm a small owner on some of the properties that I'm involved with. So I know exactly what you're talking about, Mike, and I've been frustrated about it myself. But I would like to see the CBC prepare a resolution for the General Council that we try to do this very thing. I think it's very important. More and more, as we move along, we're getting smaller and smaller shares. So we've got to start planning, and it needs to happen.
One more question on that. Currently, the tribe does not allow individual tribal members to put their land into trust. There is no policy. Are we ever going to do that? I know that it does cost an individual roughly about $5,000 to put their, if they were to go purchase a piece of property that once was in trust, it was taken out of trust, and now they want to put it back into trust. it's gonna cost that tribal member roughly about $5,000 to do that on their own, when it took absolutely nothing at all to take it out. So, do we have any plans on doing that? There's 2 studies that you have to get in order to do that first, and there's only a handful of surveyors, environmental specialists that are recognized by the Bureau that can do that. Do we have any plan in the future to allow and to help or assist our tribal members to do that?
Yes. Mr. Lee?
My comment is about transferring that land. We all know that at one point in time, and the tribe may still be doing this, buying non-trust property. So our Constitution needs to address the sales of lands held in common by the tribe, be it trust or non-trust. Because when we lose out on 360 acres that could be developed or processed for some of our use in the future, we've lost it because this body, not you all, but representatives, are not taking care of business and not being forthright and telling us what they're doing with the land. So our Constitution needs to address that as well. And there needs to be penalties for those officers that would sign off on documents to release land that belongs to the tribe and not give a full report on why, to whom, and not give us what options we could use that land for. So you all who's sitting here in tribal council needs to consider this, that there needs to be a body to oversee what is going on with land transfers. And it's not just one gentleman here. Stephen can do it all by himself, and she's correct. BIA only approves certain ones to be on this list to stamp whatever they need to stamp. And some of those people are outrageous in price. We've learned that in the past. So that's why I still talk about a constitutional convention to put parameters on the CBC releasing land and or purchasing it, and then not telling us why they let go of it. Now, I know it's not your fault, but it's the fault of tribal council in our Constitution not addressing the sale of lands and purchasing of non-trust property for our use. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Those are both valid and huge concerns. The tribe actually applied for and was approved to take part in the Cobell settlement and purchase back some of those fractional interests from tribal members. And the issue was when the BIA came forth and came down to interview the Comanche Nation, we had learned that they had actually met with the Kiowas and Apaches prior who didn't apply. Now, we weren't upset that, we weren't upset at that situation. We were upset that some of that money that was going to go to the Comanche Nation to purchase back these fractional shares of land would not go to us. It would go to these other tribes who didn't either have the capacity or they just didn't apply to be part of the grant. So that would have addressed some of that issue. When we spoke up about it, that was actually pulled away from us. The federal government removed that completely, so we weren't even able to take part in that. Tanisha's, her comment, the tribe is actually given priority whenever fee to trust applications are submitted. So the tribe trumps any individual. Now, that doesn't mean the Comanche Nation won't help. We are attempting to put Matichai tracts in trust. So yes, we're about to have budget hearings so we can discuss allocating an amount for that specific purpose if the CBC would agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. That's all positive. All right, I need a motion to pass Resolution 032023.
I make the motion.
Motion made by CBC member number 3. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second made by CBC member number 4. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Resolution passes. Next resolution, CHR EMS Fire Resolution 042023. Mr. Carrara, will you please read that resolution?
Yes. Resolution number 04-2023, a resolution to obtain a physician medical director for the Comanche Nation, CHR, EMS fire program. Third, whereas the Comanche Nation Constitution establishes the Comanche Business Committee as a duly elected official body designated to conduct business for and on behalf of the Comanche Nation, and whereas the CHR EMS fire program sees the critical need for a medical director for the oversight of EMR services to the community, and whereas CHR EMS fire program proposes to engage medical director to provide medical direction as required by the Oklahoma State Department of Health. And whereas Robert William Warden, DO, is the sole physician member of Tiger Physician Staffing, LLC, DBA, doing business as Heartland Medical Direction, and now therefore be it resolved, the Comanche Business Committee hereby authorizes the chairman or his designee to sign the one-year contract with Tiger Physician Staffing, LLC, to provide oversight to the CHR EMS fire program, and now therefore be it resolved, the Comanche Business Committee acting for and on behalf of the Comanche Nation does hereby authorize this resolution for such intent.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion to pass Resolution 042023.
Call for discussion.
Okay, we got a call for discussion? Go ahead.
Where's the CHR director?
She's right there.
Okay. Hi. Could you give us an overall overview on this?
Being an EMRA agency, is what the goal is to be, that gives us medical to respond to medical situations. It gives you protocols. Without protocols, you can't work as, like, I'm currently an EMT, but I have no medical direction underneath the Comanche Nation. So if any medical situation were to come up, like up here at the complex or anything like that, I would only be able to do basic first aid. I wouldn't be able to work under my EMT protocols. As of next month, I hope to be finishing my advanced EMT. I have more protocols as an advanced. So with Dr. Warden, he gives us the protocols, individual protocols. You have your EMR, your EMT, advanced, and your paramedic protocols. We would be working under his license. You work under just what your protocols are, and you're able, and he provides the training so you can keep up with your CEUs. So once a month, he would bring his trailer out to do training with all my staff and whoever's like an EMR or above, and just keep up with everything that you're, for your licensure.
Thank you.
Okay, any other further discussion? Okay, if not, I need a motion to pass Resolution 04-202223.
I make the motion to approve.
Motion to approve by CBC member number 3. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by CBC member number 4. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, resolution passes. Okay, our next resolution, Resolution 05-2023. Vice Chairman, will you please read that resolution?
We'll start with the third. Whereas a resolution of the Comanche Nation to elect and participate in the 5 settlements with Teva, Allergen, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and authorize the tribe's opioid litigation council to submit the tribal participation forms on the nation's behalf. Whereas the court-appointed Tribal Leadership Committee announced 5 comprehensive settlements of opiate claims asserted in case files by the tribe against Teva, Allergen, Walmart, Walgreens, and CVS. Whereas Teva, an opioid manufacturer, will pay approximately $1,019,000 over 13 years, and Allergen, a related opioid manufacturer, will pay $71 million over 6 years. For the pharmacies, Walmart will pay $77,900 million for over a year. Walmart will pay approximately $148 million over 15 years, and CVS will pay approximately $130 million over a 10-year. And whereas the settlement go along in effect if certain participants' thresholds are reached, and whereas under the terms of the settlement, each tribal entity has a right to determine which approved opiate abatement used are best for the tribal entity, and each tribal entity has a right to meaningfully participate in the final allocation process and a right to be heard prior to entry of a final allocation order. And whereas the nation is aware of and has reviewed the terms of the 5 settlements and elects to participate in the settlements, and now therefore be it resolved by the Comanche Nation Business Committee that the Comanche Nation, in order to obtain any consideration for the benefits provided to the nation pursuant to the settlement agreements, and acting through the authorized law firm, Rosette, LLP, and Skidco, Crawford, Skidco, and Joseph, LLP, hereby elects to participate in the 5 settlements and become a participating tribe as defined therein, and release in all release claims against all released entities as defined wherein. Be it resolved, further resolved, that Skidco, Crawford, Skidco, and Joseph, LLP, is authorized to submit the tribal participation form attached to this resolution as Exhibit C and Exhibit D on behalf of the Comanche Nation.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. I need a motion to pass Resolution 05-2023.
Make the motion to approve.
Motion to approve by CBC member number 3. I need a second.
Second.
Second made by CBC member number 2. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, resolution passes. Our next resolution, resolution number 06-2023. Vice Chairman, will you please read that resolution?
I'm going to pass because of the nosebleed.
Say again? Okay, due to a nosebleed, the Vice Chairman's going to pass on this one. CDC member number 3, will you please read this resolution?
Absolutely. Starting at, let me see, the third whereas, the Comanche Nation Gaming Ordinance, Section 203D, requires the Comanche Business Committee to appoint the Comanche Nation Entertainment Chief Executive Officer by resolution. And whereas the Comanche Nation Gaming Ordinance, Section 203E, requires the Comanche Business Committee to appoint the Comanche Nation Entertainment CEO for a term of 3 years and may be reappointed without limitation on a number of terms. And whereas the CBC appointed Mia Tadanipa to serve as the CEO of Comanche Nation Entertainment by resolution adopted on January 11th, 2020. And whereas Mia Tadanipa's 3-year CEO contract expires in January 2023. And whereas Mia Tadanipa's service as CEO has fulfilled the terms of the contract. And whereas Comanche Nation Entertainment has benefited from Mia Tadanipa's leadership while serving as CEO. And whereas the Comanche Business Committee desires to ensure a CEO will lead and manage Comanche Nation Entertainment as required by Comanche Nation Gaming Ordinance, Section 202A. And whereas the Comanche Business Committee finds that Mia Tadanipa continues to satisfy the requirements of the Comanche Nation Gaming Ordinance, Section 205A and B, which details the minimum qualifications for the CEO position. And whereas the Comanche Business Committee finds that Mia Tadanipa continues to satisfy the requirements of the Comanche Nation Gaming Ordinance, Section 206A through E, which details the eligibility requirements for the CEO positions. And whereas the Comanche Business Committee approves the terms of the attached employment agreement and Exhibit A detailing the CEO duties and responsibilities which are attached hereto. Now therefore be it resolved that the Comanche Business Committee, as the governing body of the tribe, appoints Mia Tadenippa to serve as the CEO of Comanche Nation Entertainment and approves the employment agreement attached as Exhibit A. And be it further resolved that the chairman can execute the employment agreement as attached hereto.
Thank you.
And I would like to make that motion to approve.
Okay,
I
we
call
got-
for discussion.
Okay, we got a call for discussion?
So based off of the resolution, under section 205 CEO qualifications, Ms. Tadenapper does not qualify to be CEO. It states that 5 years or more experience in the executive management or similarly sized business entities, which will include at least 2 years of professional casino management experience. Based off her resume, the only executive experience she has is the CEO position right now. Additionally, that's section B. Section A, to qualify for the position of CEO, an individual must possess a degree in business administration, accounting, marketing, or an equivalent field. Ms. Tadenapper also does not have that degree to qualify.
I do have a business degree, a Bachelor of Business Administration and a Master's in Hospitality Administration.
Thank you.
And the
Okay.
International Business degree is a BBA.
So you have a business administration degree? Okay, I didn't see
Mr.
that in your
Chairman,
education
Mr.
section.
Chairman, this is a personnel issue. I move we go into executive session. Anytime you're dealing with personnel issues, you go in executive session. I would like to make that motion at this time.
Well, we've got a motion on the floor, and we have motion for discussion. Is there any more discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Mike?
Our general HR policies, you have to follow what your policy states. If she's qualified, by sitting those many years, how many years, Mia?
I've over 10.
Uh-huh.
I was the director of training and development, and
Right.
also the general manager, and that's also considered what we consider executive management now.
And you know, I'm gonna say this. When we have qualified Comanches to lead our organizations, we should keep them. We shouldn't throw them away. And that experience she has, sounds to me like 15 years or more with our own casinos, qualifies her as having that background. Because other associated duties, or however it's stated there, all of her experience with us in the casinos has been long-term. I was a TA when she first came on as one of the leadership there with the commission. So I've been out of office, well, I was TA in 2006 and 7.
I was the director of compliance for over 10 years.
So we're talking 15 years maybe? That's highly qualified to me. Instead of going around beating the bushes for non-Comanches to come work for us and then ripping us off if they do, if they don't. You know, and you cannot, as a body sitting here, assume you have daily management over our program directors. That's not your role that we elected you to. We elected you all to help the community, not supervise daily management. And you need to remember that. Now, yeah, I'm preaching to you, but that's the very problem we have all the time when the CBC wants to micromanage the TA and or program directors. Then you got people hesitant to move forward or bring ideas forward. And so we have some Comanche working for us that's highly qualified. Why can't we keep them? Thank you.
Program directors
Pastor
are,
Keybone?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Just a couple of quick questions and then a statement. One question, how long has Mia already been serving in this role?
Mia, how long have you been serving in the role?
I started as interim in March and served a few months, over 3 years.
And so, one, I think it's a bit out of line after 3 years to finally bring up the qualification that was supposed to be started from the very beginning. But the beauty of it, and the good news in that, is that for 3 years, we've seen her do an incredible job in this role. And I relate to this a lot, Mia, because when I came to First Baptist Lawton, one of the requirements that they had was that you had to have a doctorate degree. And what they did was they looked at the body of my work and the body of my experience, and they waived that qualification because they knew what I could do, and they saw what I could do. They didn't have to guess, and so they waived that. And because of that, in a church that's 125 years old here pretty soon, I became the first non-white pastor of one of the largest churches in our region. And so they could have overlooked me because I didn't fit every detail of their description. But at some point you realize you got to go with the body of work. And so what I have seen in that entity, as I've come home just about 2 years ago, it's just that it's one of those things that we can be really proud of. And it's made me proud to be Comanche, to know that that entity is a driving force in our community. And so I didn't realize when I first got here that you were the one leading that. But to know that now and to have the opportunity to continue that relationship would be an incredible blessing for me personally and my family, but also for our nation and our community as well.
Okay,
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. I too also, I'm very happy that women lead, but it's in the manner in which you lead, anybody. And so there was a plea for help that went out on the internet from one of the citizens of our nation that works under you, Mia. And I'm sure that we all have people that are our adversaries. However, they were saying that you went to different casinos to drum up support for you, and they were saying that they were being forced to come here and support you, which they didn't want to do. And something needed to be done about that. That there were 3 people that were fired under you that had lots and lots and lots of experience with what they were doing, and they were well loved. And so, again, the change of management also changes our atmosphere. I think we do need to realign with what our common cause is. We don't have a strategic plan. We don't have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan. And I think that we need people that are going to buy into our commonality for the good of the people. Not because of who I know, or not because of I'm not liked today, because tomorrow is going to be a different day. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Right, there's a question right here.
I think John David, this should be going into executive session, because there are a lot of other opinions out there, and I think it should be discussed among you, because, like I said, there's a lot of other issues out there that people realize what's going on, and just like your tribal judge contract, it's an executive session. Why isn't this contract going into executive session?
How many of our staff have contracts?
Just Mia.
Just Mia?
Well, you mean like in the whole tribe?
For
in the
enterprise, for
No,
entertainment?
No.
For Comanche Nation Entertainment?
Well, when I heard something about her being under contract, I asked what other staff is under contract. We have
I asked
HRs.
for entertainment for the
No,
casino?
for any of them. I mean, we have HRs that
You
hire.
mean tribal-wide?
Yeah, doesn't the casinos have a HR that hires too? Why one person having a contract?
Go ahead. Dean.
Nobody knows?
Sometimes precedent sets the pace. What was done before will continue because it was working. And in this industry, the contract is, I would say, more security than being a straight employee when people can manufacture any negative commentary about you. I would
Really,
support a
when you
contract.
have a contract for 2 years, when that contract ends, it ends.
Well, it can
You're done.
always be renegotiated, that's what contracts would
Well, and
have.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's even if a person is on staff, they can get fired. Well, if you don't renew a contract, isn't that basically saying same thing?
It basically says both sides agree to end the contract. That's what the contract's for, that you know there's a termination date. Under HR policies, this tribe has a bad history of letting you go on prefabricated
Right.
information.
I agree.
So I would agree with the contract. And if I were in that position,
Well, that's what I'm saying, how many more?
they told you none. That's only
Just
one.
that one.
All right,
Why-
go ahead,
Why only
Neil.
one?
So first, I'd like to address, that there are rumors that went out on social media, and I hope that, nobody, again, rumors, and I'm happy to address those at no time. Did I ever ask any of my team members to attend? So that is a fact. And so first, I'd like to thank the Comanche Nation for allowing me to serve in a leadership position. I truly, heart and soul, work for the Comanche people. I work for you. Day in and day out, my children are Comanche, my grandchildren are going to be Comanche, and I want them to be prosperous, and it's important to me every day. I'd like to state that Comanche Nation Entertainment has set record-breaking revenues in our leadership and with my team. So in 21, we set a record-breaking revenue of $74 million, and we're on track for 22, right behind that. We've set a lot of record-breaking revenue with some of the highest coin-in months during my leadership. Our operating income is over 50%, and that's the highest that it's ever been in Comanche history. And what that means is that we're taking 50 cents, over 50 cents of every dollar that we make to the bank. In 2018, it was 44%, and in 2010, it was 33%. Our balance sheet is the healthiest that it has ever been. We have a very healthy balance sheet, which means that we own a lot, our assets are high, our liability is very low. We, in essence, have no debt. Our auditors noted in our last audit report that we have a very healthy balance sheet, and that's something as Comanche people we should be proud of. I'd like to also mention, in addition to having record-breaking revenue amounts, we have taken on about more than 10 additional venues for the nation. So we have, and these are venues that the previous CEOs did not have. We have surveillance, we have food and beverage, we now manage the 6 additional smoke shops, we manage the warehouse, and I'd like to state that in November of 22, this warehouse had an income of about $6,000, and in November of 22 had income of $654,000. We opened a brewery and brew our own house beer. We opened a burger company. We opened Starbucks at Red River. And most important, we have launched 2 new casinos, the War Pony and Cash, and we're still in construction process at Cash and really look to start making a lot more money with Cash. This is the first time that we've built any new casinos since 2014. Since 2014, we've been stagnant. And in the last few years, we have really started with momentum and we started rolling. And we hope to continue that. This is despite we've had record-breaking revenues and despite a pandemic and going through 2 floods. We were closed for 87 days and we rebounded with the highest revenue year that we've ever had. Not only are we focused on externally building and expanding our businesses in Comanche Nation, but we've also went to the internal business because that's something that hasn't ever been focused on. Our processes and procedures and policies are so outdated, and so that is something that under our leadership that we've really tried to bring our procedures up to date. We've eliminated the duplicate forms and have electronic systems so that we do things faster and we're more efficient, which ultimately turns to more money. We've launched a customer service program, and it's one that has many moving parts to it, so I'd be here all day if I was going to tell you all about it. But one of the things that we're most proud is that we have incorporated the Comanche language into that customer service program. Our customers are learning Comanche. Our community is learning Comanche, and if you haven't seen the billboards and the marketing campaigns in Comanche, we're teaching our Southwest Oklahoma how to speak Comanche. We've increased tribal employee numbers. We have 176 tribal members. That's 23%. We have 44 Comanche managers. In 2015, just to compare, we had 142 tribal employees. And just to recap, in 2005, our revenue was $33 million. In 2010, it was 42. In 2014, it was 58. In 2015, it was 69. In 2020, it was 26, and that was the pandemic. And 21, it was 74, and we're on track to beat that number. We have great working relationship with our vendors, with potential investors. We work really close with the realty department so that we can, figure out where we're going to open businesses next. And, we have great working relationship with our tribe and our tribal offices. We have a great team. We really do. And that has taken some time to build. And our team is very motivated, and I feel like there is a lot of momentum in our businesses right now. And it is definitely stabilized, and we look forward to continuing to grow and prosper for the nation. Thank you.
Now, when my church finds out that I'm defending casinos, I may be looking for a job, so I may need to come see you. Well, I think it's super obvious. The work we've seen in 3 years, numbers like that in spite of a pandemic. I didn't know this was on the agenda today. I came for my first meeting just to learn, to get involved since I've been in the community now for 2 years. But it just, to me, this is a no-brainer. She's one of ours. She's doing an incredible job. I've seen more about our nation in 2 years than I've seen in the last 20. And so not realizing that was a huge part of that. And so anyway, I think it would be a grave error. And any kind of transition of leadership at this point in the game, when there's so much momentum, is going to do nothing but take you back. And to be able to move forward and keep moving forward at the pace that we're moving forward, record-breaking, is pretty amazing. And so I would move that whether it be in this session or the next, that we call the question.
Comment here. One of the things that had happened to us in the past, I think we all know it, some don't realize it, was that when there were funds that were commingled for future projects for the casinos, under Mr. Nelson's tenure, that body gave away the investment monies that every business needs. Now, everybody was happy to receive that per cap at that time, but that per cap was built on the savings that would help our casinos to improve their attractiveness, their grounds. And when Via spoke about the floods, maybe $5 million of that money could have been used to fix that back area where the casinos wouldn't be flooded and cost us more money. So this body needs to consider it, and or tribal council needs to consider it, that we approve at least 3% of gross revenues to go into the savings and future development fund for our casinos. Or put a hotel behind this casino in Lawton, because the military is here in town once a month. Graduation ceremonies, visitors, families coming. And all of that business goes to all other hotels and down the road at our biggest competitor. So you have to give MIA something to work with, just like you have to do this with our Comanche Economic Development Group. They have to have some funds to invest. And tribal council, we have to be willing to vote that money for them instead of just per cap, per cap, per cap. Because we'll never get that 60% if we don't allow investments to grow. And that's what we need to consider, and I know you're going into the session on something else, but I think a planning session and a strategic plan for our casinos to have that future development. Every business has to invest in itself from all the earnings, whether it's 5% or 25%. We need to let our casinos invest in themselves with some of that funding that they receive from the gamers. Thank you.
Okay, we have an initial motion on the floor.
Well, I wasn't done.
Stand by. We have initial motion on the floor, and we're going to do a roll call vote on that motion.
No, I was interrupted when I called for discussion.
Okay, go ahead.
I only talked about the qualifications. I didn't even bring up anything about the duties. I think it's great that we've had record-breaking revenues. What is our profitability on that? What is our profitability? So what was our gross revenue?
Our gross revenue?
Yeah,
147 million.
147 million?
And our
And our
bottom
net-
line was 74 in 21.
Okay, so about 50%
Yeah,
profitability.
over 50, that's
Like 51%?
50.5.
Okay. So half of it goes to expenses. To me, that's not acceptable. Any other industry, that's not acceptable.
Sounds better than Vegas.
I don't know what
It's the highest
Vegas,
that
I
it's
don't know
ever
what
been.
Vegas's numbers are.
Okay.
Regardless, a director position is not an executive position. An executive position, chief operating officer, chief information officer, chief investment officer, chief financial officer, chief legal officer, chief compliance officer. None of those titles she held. BBA, what is BBA?
A Bachelor of Business Administration.
Okay. So the duties, develop and implement policies and procedures for CNE to guide development, protect patrons, employees, and property, promote operational efficiency, reducing operating costs, comply with relevant laws and regulations, and encourage the growth of net gaming revenues and other incomes. What is the loss right now? How much are we over budget on the cash casino? Over $3 million?
No, we have not met what we initially budgeted for cash. So we are, and also for cash, when we open cash, we have vendor placement agreements that we will also receive to offset those costs.
Okay, well, we're $3 million over budget. We haven't started, that's what you reported at all entities. We haven't even started phase 2. Every day that that's delayed, we lose money. You can do the math. How many slot machines are supposed to go in there?
Over 250. And
So how much do you make on every slot machine?
well, what I did, so whenever, and as the CBC, you decided to place that project out to bid. And we did tell you multiple times that that is gonna cost us money and it is gonna cost us time. And it was still decided to put that out for bid, and so that's what we did. What we could have done for cash, what we could have done is not opened it until we opened the whole thing. And then we could have just started with one pre-expense cost and expensed all of it and started. But what we decided to do is open, we had the room for the games, and so let's start making and throwing off some revenue to offset those pre-expense, those costs. So that's exactly what we did. We are still paying construction costs right now, and those are gonna hit our business. I mean, this business just opened, and we can't expect our business that we're gonna open the front door and start making money, and you know that, that's in any business. But we are offsetting, we're making revenue while we can before we finish this greater project.
Yeah, that's because it was a decision to go with a company for design and build that had no experience in design and build of casinos.
And the CBC
Plus,
selected that.
I wasn't there. That was their decision, and that was not a wise decision. And there were over, 60 change work orders done, 30, you showed a whole list of them. And there was around 60 of them. 30? Okay. Had the project continued, there would have been exorbitant costs. The project would have continued to have change work orders, which would have cost us even more money. That's why it was decided to put out an RFP to a company that actually has experience in doing that, so that it can be done correctly.
And we had hired an owner's rep to represent us, and bids are due Monday, so they are due this Monday, and we are back on track to get this project done. We want to get this project finished. We want to get it to the finish line, and we're on track to do that before the end of the year. And this area and this cash, there is a lot of potential for this location.
Question in the front right here.
It's not a question, it's a point of information, just so that the room can know what we're dealing with. The average for good margin profit, the margin what we're talking about here, is 36% nationwide. And so when you're functioning in an entity that has over 50%, you're in an elite category there. Just, it's easy to throw out numbers without understanding exactly what they mean. And anybody that's involved in the business world, I serve on the board for a 14 million member organization called the Southern Baptist Convention. I'm on their finance team. We're having to deal with things like this all the time. And so if you don't know what those numbers mean or how they compare to what's going on, across the country or wherever that you're working, it can kind of give you a skewed view of that. So I just want to give you a point of information there. So over 50% is an incredible profit margin. And anybody who's familiar with the business world will know that it's during those kind of profit margin numbers, that's the time that you spend money to set yourself up long term to make more money. So we're not looking even at a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year effect. You're looking 5, 10, 20 years down the road. And that's what any kind of governing body looks at. Not what is just good for us today, but what's good for our people when we're not here anymore. And so as a tribal member, when I look at those numbers and I hear those things, that's encouraging to me. And it further validates to me that we need to keep going in the direction that we need to go. And my caution is, at this point, is that we're starting to get into some weeds and some debate that gets very personal. And so I would recommend that we get it in the executive session or come to a decision quickly.
Mm-hmm. Well, I bring this up because I represent the people, so somebody needs to ask these questions.
Okay.
And that's the average profitability across the country, but for casinos, I'm looking here, 70.46.
Okay.
That's a significant difference.
But it's not just casinos we're dealing with. We're dealing with an enterprise that's involved in a lot of things. And so a lot of times that high margin in casinos is going to help you with all these other things that aren't as high margin. And so the median is going to, if you predict that out, if you have a 36%, you're not dealing in the casino world, and if you average all that out, it's going to take you to about where we are.
We've never had 50% in our gaming history.
Well, reducing costs obviously haven't been taken on because, we had a discussion about the cost of advertising, which is over $10 million. To bring that in-house.
$3 million.
$3 million, so we'd save $7 million per year over the last, you said $7 million for advertising? $3 million? Okay, that's different than what you had said, but bringing that in-house, you could save a lot of money. A lot of money, millions of dollars.
And those are things that we are working towards, that, this is not a light switch and we turn it on and everything is, glamorous. We wish it was. It has taken years to rebuild. It took, 18 months to build a team, because when I stepped into this role, there were none. We didn't have an IT director, which we just talked about. It would be a huge security risk and left us vulnerable for many years. So those are positions that we have to fill so that we can move and be progressive. But it takes time.
Okay,
and then
moving on.
there's other items that I'll discuss that are more sensitive in executive session, because I don't want to bring them up in talk about them in front of everybody.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We're going to go with the motion. This time, John David, we're going to do a roll call vote on this resolution.
No, wasn't there a,
Motion to approve.
no motion to bring it to executive session?
The first motion was.
Motion on the
I had a
floor.
second on the very first motion, which was to pass the resolution. Mr. Komachit seconded that resolution.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Let's go into voice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Go ahead.
All right, Hazel Tasquam,
No.
Ross Carrara,
No.
Dr. Cornell Pee Wee Wardy,
No.
Robert Comachit Jr.,
Yes.
Alice Casnavoyd,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Okay, we have a tie. Let me go over this again. Hazel Tosqual, no. Ross Carrara, no. Vice Chairman, no. CBC member number 4, yes. CBC member number 3, yes. Secretary Treasurer, yes. The chairman votes yes. Her contract will be renewed. Okay, moving on. Moving on, I need a motion to go into executive session. Stand by.
Art, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda. I'd like to add,
If you were here on time, we made a motion to accept the agenda, and everyone voted yes.
If you'd make the meeting, we wouldn't have.
Well, not everybody voted yes.
The majority voted yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay, this time we have old and new business. Okay, here's the rules for old and new business. State your purpose and intent up front, and you have 5 minutes. Okay, who's first?
I'll go first. In the Constitution, we have the election policy that was put into play, and we are on the eve of the general council meeting, and you individuals still have not put in a temporary board. That's what the Constitution states. It states that you, CBC, are supposed to put in a temporary, no less than 6 individuals. And it also states something about the election ordinance. Was that done prior to this? And who done it? And are you guys going to move on this? Because like I said, tribal council's right around the corner, and we still don't have an election board.
Those are on my list of things to bring up in executive session that they told us that we needed to, because there are some people that were on the interim election board, the group that was working on something. I have no idea what it was.
Probably the election ordinance.
They, some of them are no longer eligible to serve on there. So they told us last month that we needed to bring a recommendation so that way we could make it for today. So that'll be after executive session.
Thank you for bringing it
And then you
up.
will appoint at that time, because that's
And
what
then,
it says.
yes, and then general counsel, you guys will appoint.
No,
the
no,
General
the
counsel will
Constitution says the CBC will appoint a temporary board, no less
That will
than
be the
6.
temporary board
No.
until the general
Read your
counsel is
Constitution.
April.
It says that you will, I just read it, that's what I've been reading this whole time you guys were discussing.
And that's what I told you.
And
that
it
whenever
says
we
that
bring the
you
names-
will appoint 6 members as a temporary board, and then come election time, there will be nominations taken for a permanent election board. But until then, you individuals must put in a temporary board.
Yes. You
And you're gonna do that
answered your own-
today?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, next.
Tribal Administrator, can you clarify that for us, please? Where do we stand on that, that board that we have in place, that interim board?
The interim board that was put in place in November of 2021, several of the members of that board, you know, some of them have been employed, so that needed to be changed. That's why I mentioned it a month ago for you all, because the Constitution states you put in your temporary board until general counsel for nominations. Then you'll have your permanent board.
So who's the interim board?
The original committee that was on in November 2020, it was whenever the constitutional election amendments
Okay,
came
who is
forward.
the interim board?
There was Francine Frisch, Susan Parker, Anita Dockeye. There was like 4 or 5, Sandra Gallegos. I don't have the motion, I mean, the resolution in front of me, but there was 4 or 5 people on there.
So after the Constitution was amended, whoever disregarded it completely and put in an interim board when that was the CBC's job, and then you're coming to tell them how to do their job.
No, that's not, this happened prior to the constitutional change, because they were the ones that were working on the new ordinance if the new board would have been voted into the Constitution. What I brought forward to them was that resolution was put in place with names on it, that they need to bring their temporary board forward because the Constitution was amended. In the Constitution, it states that the CBC needs to put in their temporary board. I was giving them a reminder because General Counsel is right around the corner. Election time is right around the corner. This is January.
So this election ordinance that you're speaking of, that's up to the temporary election board to do, not the interim committee. So you guys, well, she said they're gonna vote on it or do whatever today, so.
All right. Next, please.
I'd like to see one of y'all make a motion to take these signs down over here, put up our MMIP, put up our Eagles, put up our programs, something that is about the people. Now, I know you're gonna say, man, strong. Okay, that doesn't apply. You just talked rude to the vice chairman. You've tried to, I got it here where you talked to him and wanted him, anyway, you wouldn't let Willie Nelson speak. I'm sure if I asked to be on the agenda, you're not gonna let me speak. I've had different people say they tried to talk to you and they can't. So if we're gonna be Comanche strong, it needs to start with you, and it's not happening. So let's take these signs down, put up MMIWs, because that is important to every parent, every grandparent, to know that, and if you see those or know anything, they can call. Now they're finding, years and years later, some of these people. But the MMI people, say boots on the ground, they're out looking. Okay, we need to recognize that. And our Eagles, our medicine bird, why don't we have that up there? And then each month you could put a program and the information. That's about us as people. That's what we need, not some sign up there, and, well, that's another issue.
Absolutely, thank you.
Well, there was another resolution in, wait a minute, where they, using the emblem on your Comanche Strong.
That's the people's, that's not mine.
Them. You
That's the
altered
people's.
it by putting this on the back.
Okay.
There's a resolution against it.
Thank you for sharing, thank you.
Okay, so what's gonna happen with this? And I'd still like somebody to make a motion to take those down and put something meaningful up there. Nobody wants to do that either. Do we
Well,
not
from a
care?
business aspect, we should have advertising for our casinos up there. Let's draw in more people so we can make more money. It is a great saying, but what is it doing for us? What is it saying
Nothing.
to the people about what we have to offer?
Right.
Okay.
We're Lords of the Plains. We're already strong. The Comanches know that. They feared us. So that's pointless. Plus, the way our members have been treated, it doesn't
Well,
stand.
let's talk about how our members are being treated, okay? You can say anything you want about me on social media, okay? Doesn't bother me. Once you attack my family, which you did, Ms. Debbie Hendricks, you attacked my wife, I will not tolerate that,
Well, let's go
okay?
outside.
You called her a hooker on social media.
Let's go outside. You said you won't tolerate it. Let's go
No,
outside.
I'm very professional. I have a meeting to run. Next.
Okay, that's
Next.
another thing.
No, you
All the
had your
meetings
time, you had your 5
All the
minutes.
meetings you go to,
Next.
how does that affect us?
Next.
You're on Channel 7. We didn't give you permission to give our business out, did we?
Next, please.
I'd like to present an idea.
Let Cornell talk, he's got his hand up. You
Well,
wanna
I have
ignore
my hand
him?
too.
Well,
All of this diatribe that we hear needs to quit.
Agree.
One, the social media hurts us more than helps us. That's not what it was meant to do. Secondly, you're talking about a business when you say these billboards. And now,
that's not a business though.
the
What it's
leasing,
saying
the
up there
renting
is-
of the land is income to the tribe. And those billboards earn income for the tribe.
I thought we're paying for them.
We should not. If they're
How
on
much
our
are they paying
land,
for the signs?
go down, cross the fence here, that's on private trust land. I would not be renting that sign up for free.
Well,
So anyway,
ask them.
these billboards can earn income for the nation. And if we own the land that they sit on, we shouldn't have to pay for that billboard's advertising. So I'm coming to the point that some of these businesses, you've laid a lot of businesses on MIA outside of gaming. And while those businesses are growing, that is a portion of the former 60% that people will raise up coming April. They're going to say it again. And you've had two former chairmen stand up and promise to bring 60% per cap and then walk back with their tails because they couldn't get it out of Department of Interior. So we, the nation, have to let our business structure earn more income, whether it's Comanche Nation Enterprises or under the casinos. So there comes a point in time, this strategic plan will include those entities that earn third-party revenues. Money not attached to federal grants, money not attached to our casinos. And that's the strategic plan you all are elected to help do. If not, we can do a resolution at tribal council and appoint our own strategic planning committee if that's what we have to do. But I just want to bring that to you because some of us are tired of waiting for those people to come forward and establish some real strong entities underneath our banner of Comanche Nation. We've got to have that third-party revenue income. And there's a lot of expansion out there. There's a lot of companies that want to partner with the tribe. However, when this political body gets involved in decision-making over staffing or over expenditures, those people pull out. We cannot have that. We cannot have that anymore. I've been home for 20 years and I've seen it for the last 30. So let's do something about this in tribal council. If we get a resolution, I hope you approve it, to establish our own economic development board outside the purview of our CBC here, who tend to play daily managers, no matter who we elect. Not blaming all of y'all, but it's been a team effort in the past, and we don't want to see that in the future.
and to answer your question, I did apologize to your wife, and then I caught hell from the elders saying that was shameful, and I should have never apologized. So there you go. And when I said, let's go outside, that was for a discussion between you and I. I'm not going to touch you. But,
All right,
I mean,
thank
to
you.
discuss.
Thank you. Go ahead.
It sort of turned into the Indian version of Jerry Springer today.
This is better.
So, I thought, man, it'd be cool to maybe be on CBC someday. I think I'd run away from that. Did some learning today. Just as this is a little, off course of where we've been, but I think it's something that you should know as Comanche people. I shared earlier that with our church and with my affiliation and leadership on the Southern Baptist Convention, something recently came up in this last year that affects all of us, and that was the report on the boarding schools.
Yes.
And if you've not had a chance to read that report, everybody in this room needs to read that report. Every member of our tribe needs to read that report. It needs to be a report that we target education on, because Deb Holland, who's the Secretary of the Interior, who's native from New Mexico, she fought for this report. And in the report, it uncovers all the atrocities that happen to our people at these boarding schools. And it is, if you've not read it, it is one of the most painful things that you'll ever read, because you're going to read in those reports what happened to our family members. We still have survivors today from that. In fact, Deb Holland called for this Road to Healing tour. The first one, the first stop was at Riverside. And I know that some of you may have made it to that. And what it was she wanted to set up a couple of microphones and let survivors speak on their own behalf, what they went through, or to speak on behalf of their families and what they went through at these boarding schools. And you hear about how 5 years old, some of our girls, 5 years old, as soon as they were brought in by strangers, taken away from their home, taken into these boarding schools, washed with kerosene, stripped naked, washed with kerosene, hair cut off. When they showered them, if you can call it that, they took what's the equivalent of toilet brushes and lye soap and just scrubbed them like that. And then after they were done with them, and they finally got them dressed again, and I heard this one over and over again, so I'm telling it to you. They would march them across the street to the nearest church and make them ask God to forgive them for making them Indian. Okay? And that's just a few. I listened to people who were survivors, people who had endured this and spoke on their own behalf. I heard people that talked about their own family members. It helped me to put into perspective even my own family who went through things like that, but they never talked about it. They never talked about it. And so, as a member of the Southern Baptist Convention, knowing that churches were partly responsible and implicated in some of these things, I went to our leading boards, not as an individual, but as a Comanche, as someone who's Native. And I said, we cannot be silent about this. And so last year at our annual convention, and remember, this represents 14 million people, over 50,000 churches across the country, we set a resolution. We call it Resolution Number 4. It's on religious liberty, forced conversion, and the Federal Indian Boarding School Initiative Investigative Report. And here were the highlights of that resolution. To encourage Southern Baptists to decry the methods of forced assimilation and conversion, as well as the dehumanization of fellow image bearers. To affirm that Southern Baptists stand in support of Native Americans, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians who were mentioned in the report, especially those of our own family of churches as they process the findings of this report and discern next steps towards healing. Affirm that the Southern Baptists earnestly pray for the families of those targeted by these atrocities brought to light in this investigation, and to condemn any federal government's policy, former or current, to replace the tribal culture for its own in an effort to ease their intent to separate tribes from their territories. And we also declared the atrocities done against these people in the name of religious conversions as reprehensible, betraying what we truly believe. And we also made a stand against forced conversions and distorted missiological practices as contrary to our distinctive beliefs as Baptists in religious liberty and soul freedom. And we also affirm and place our confidence for salvation in God alone without it being forced upon anyone, that it's a free gift to be chosen freely. And so we were the first denomination in any denomination in the world to address this report and take a strong stand against what happened to our people. And it passed overwhelmingly. It was one of the only unanimous votes in our convention.
Wow, excellent.
And it is historical. It is the first in the over 100-year history of Southern Baptists. It is the first and only right now resolution that has stood for Native people. And so Comanches were at the forefront of this historic moment. And just in light of a day that has been a little controversial and all of that, that's some great news for us as a people, that we stand at the forefront of bridging a gap of peace. Amen?
Amen.
That could go on one of the signs. And I know, Mike, I know you want to make money, but sometimes it's just about the people.
Tanisha?
Yeah.
I have a few things. A few months back, I had brought up the Accountability Act, and you individuals had stated that y'all were going to discuss it further, whatnot. Have you discussed it further? Because again, we're on the eve of the tribal council and people are going to be nominated, and as we all know, that Accountability Act is illegal and has no place in our tribe.
Mr. Carrara?
Yes. Mr. Keybon, thank you for sharing that. That's really powerful stuff. Mr. Burgess, thank you for bringing up wanting to do strategic planning. We absolutely have to do that. We don't have a planning department that could even take on strategic planning. So to respond to your comment, I'm going to make a motion that we explore developing our own planning department. The Economic Development Authority has funds right now that will grant funds to develop a planning department, and we need to do that. And I take that seriously, and so I make that motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add to that comment, if I may, Councilman.
Yes, sir.
I would like that you make that motion, but when you do make it, I would like it to be made based upon our authorities under the Constitution to appoint committees to move forward on this type of activity, because it's very important that we follow our Constitution, and let's get it done. I agree with you.
Yes, sir. That added, addended language, adding a committee, subcommittee.
Okay. CBC, we have a motion on the floor from
Yes.
CBC member number 2.
I second it.
We've got a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Could you repeat it?
Please repeat it.
Yes, 1 second. Make a motion that we explore developing our own planning department. The Economic Development Authority has funds right now that will grant funds to develop a planning department. We need to do that. I take it seriously. Mr. Wani added that when we make the motion, based upon it should be based upon our authority under the Constitution to appoint a committee to move forward with this type of activity.
Thank you. We have a first, we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Yes, Vice Chairman.
Yeah, I just appreciate the conversation and discourse about intergenerational grief. It's really important. So that leads into my inquiry about the need for planning an educational summit. And so I'd like to, present, an idea. Almost, oh, by the way, I present tobacco as well. 2 years ago, I approached the TA, Julia, and let her know about the Comanche Higher Education Program Director, Christian Bowes. We talked about the need and discussed the current status of Comanche education and build a vision for the future, just thinking out loud. And talking to Christian back then, we came up with an idea to create a one-day educational summit that would involve all those entities within the Comanche Nation, even our partners who wanted to participate in the educational summit, which is create a board to grave to me. That idea got put on hold because of COVID-19. So everything stopped dead. There was nothing, it was just conversation. Last month, Christian and I brought that up in various gatherings and revisited the idea of an educational summit. And now that COVID-19 conditions are a little bit better, on December 30th last year, just a few weeks ago, I met with Christian at the Dorothy Laurentino Center to kind of brainstorm some of those issues and items. And he invited Iris and Amber to that meeting. The idea was just to brainstorm and discuss a steering committee that would plan such an event sometime this spring. And that was our main discussion point, nothing further than that. So I sent an email to Julia on the 30th of December to inform her about us visiting the idea of an educational summit, just the idea. So I'm here to propose that a resolution be created with the assistance of our legal counsel that will allow interested Comanche Nation entities, our partners, even CBC members, if they so desire, to participate on the steering committee just to plan this event. And so that's my idea in motion, and would like to present that proposal.
What is the purpose of the educational summit? I didn't catch that.
The purpose is to bring serious players together they're not just educators, but the core would be educators to come to the table and just discuss the issues like Pastor Keybone said about intergenerational grief, boarding schools, things like that. To bring our research, particularly evidence-based research that we have already here, and I have that, both public school and higher education in Southwest Oklahoma, and share out the research with testimony and just lay out what is the possibility of looking at our future and perhaps establishing goals and objectives. I was impressed when I visited some of the Cheyenne Arapaho educators, and they have already established 5 goals of education within their department, and it's for the future. And so perhaps this could be that we could come together for one day, bring those that are serious players, and just brainstorm about the idea of building our future, cradleboard to grave. It could morph into these goals or an educational strategic plan. But because it's so many entities and those that are involved, you know, I feel more secure that it was backed by a resolution. And I talked to Forrest about that idea, and that's what I'm presenting.
That
Okay.
sounds exactly like what they held over at the academy back in December. I think it was on December the 20th after our all-entity meeting when we were all together. We were all supposed to meet at 5:30. And we all had just left the all-entity meeting at 5, and I was the only one who showed up when you guys were all invited and it was all on the calendar, so.
Okay, any other further discussion, CBC?
Well,
We did have the second on that motion. The motion that Dr. Pee Wee Wardy made, Hazel seconded it.
Okay,
Seconded it.
Mhm.
And that was to create an exploratory body?
Yeah, and educate, just a summit, just to bring together an educational summit to discuss the future and perhaps, you know, come up with remedies and what we can do and work together. And
Well, if you're gonna do that, you need a subcommittee to actually determine what the discussion's gonna be about, because right now it just seems like a vague,
Yeah,
goal.
well,
You need to fine tune that a little bit more.
Are you referring to issues that are going on in our school system, public school system?
yes, yeah.
Like the cutting of a native child's hair?
Well, it'd be an assessment
Stuff like that.
of where we are today, what are contemporary issues that will lead to the foundation and match with evidence-based theory, and then look what the needs are of other banks. So it's really a focus group, a steering committee, a subcommittee. That's what I'm suggesting.
I think that's a good idea because our children in the public school system do need that support, especially when it comes to tribal issues. Hence the Oklahoma Land Run. Every year, our kids, you know, they're forced to participate in something that affects them. And a lot of these educators, they're teaching the wrong side of history. And again, you know, how many times do we read Oklahoma, when we open up and we see in Oklahoma City News, a native kid got his hair cut, or he was made fun of, calling him a girl, and issues of that nature. I think that's a good idea.
all right. We'll go in order. TA?
Yes,
Then Mike.
I did speak to Christian and them about his initiative, and they requested a little more time, because they said that they wanted that tentative date in April. They said that when they had the discussions with Dr. Pee Wee Wardy, that they understood that he wanted several, you know, tribal members, several groups, him, CBC, all these individuals to come together, but they feel like there needs to be more of a planning committee and have it at a later date. If they rush into doing these things, it may not be planned in a proper manner.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Mike?
My comment is about if you're gonna do, and to me, Dr. P. Wardy, it sounds like you're trying to gather information, research type, and then you wanna get that published or put out there as a press release or a report. So any group meeting like this, and you're gonna ask people come forward with their personal histories or family histories, we need to make sure we're not gonna be sued as a nation. So the tribe needs to create its own internal review board if you're gonna ask for these documented information, documented resources. As you know, on the college level, you gotta have an IRB if you're gonna talk about human subject matters and or animals. So these individuals who come forward need to sign off on a release that whatever is published out of this is not going to bring legal repercussions upon the CBC and the nation.
Yeah.
Just want to remind you all of that a lot of nations do have their IRB as school districts, as universities have to have that IRB. So the nation needs to consider that before all this material is gathered and any publication comes out of it. Thank you.
Mr. Burgess, I'd like to echo that, and thank you very much for that idea. Because, you know, we've talked, a number of us talked about the creation of an institutional review board for the nation. And that could be essentially the outcome of this summit. Be looking at, you know, those ideas and manifest that, because, you know, in higher education, it's probably the source of our ownership of our knowledge and our knowledge base. And so, but not everybody that's in education or services understands that concept, but coming together as a collective, that's what I mean. They come in and talk about that. They could be a potential outcome of the summit discussion, so thank you.
As he was asking, Mr. Carrara was asking, that would be one of the 5 or 6 or 7 points of that meeting. Establishing that IRB, because you want to bring educational and or people who involve like HR with HIPAA. You want to bring that in and create this policy that the tribe has to adopt. So any information that comes out of these meetings and resources, research type, data information is protected and the tribe is protected.
As Cameron University Native American Student Association president, I can tell you this much. We have about 4 or 5 committed individuals, and they are seniors. I've been a senior. So we need to do something quick, because the kids that are coming out of the Comanche Academy need to understand that they have this route to take. And we do not have a real rooted, that used to be that way, but it's not that way today. And I appreciate that the chairman has gone in and spoken to the university president, but he did so without a Native student organization with him, which would have really bridged our gap, which we had been trying to do for a couple of years. So, you know, we do need the summit. We do need to bring in, we have the lowest amount of participants in the student associations around the board. Like I've seen groups that really move their organizations in their universities in a really good way. And so, you know, I'm too old to be doing this. Somebody else needs to come in and start, you know, rolling through and making sure this happens.
I have a suggestion. Why can't we have like interns? Because we have, my children don't want to have anything to do with the tribe. Grandkids do. I've got one that is learning to speak and is dressing now, and the other one can name all the chiefs because he loves history and he reads all about us. Why can't we have younger teenagers like intern with the CBC and find out what it's like, or even in some of the programs in what they're doing, so our children get interested and, you know, can pass it on? Because when I'm gone, my kids don't care. So I'm trying to instill all that in my grandkids, and so far it's working. But I mean, if you don't do that, and you don't, I don't want them to be deterred in participating like I do in, you know, with the tribe. I want them to have a say. It's their tribe, and if they learn more of how it functions, I think they'll see what all y'all are supposed to be doing.
I agree. I am Indian, have it as a youth council right now, a youth council that are doing just that. And so they're getting involved in government. They're going to be at CBC meetings in the future to see how our government works. And they're also going to be doing it through their cultural richness, I think they said. And Martin's heading up that.
That's, I mean, I'm talking about not the kids at your home, but I'm talking about school kids going to the school, like Cornell could go and promote that, and they can apply to be an intern. Yeah, we have a group of kids, but you're not reaching those out in the community that need to take part and learn. And some of them are eager, but there's nobody teaching them.
Okay.
Julie, I appreciate the feedback about Kristen, because this is big and there's no timeline, there's no time frame or anything. And then we got budget hearings coming up, so it'd be factored into for resources. But I'm just presenting the idea that it could be framed with a resolution. And because I'm in higher education, I drive, you know, dissertations and master's thesis that are about that. And I've got students already in mind is that they need to be assigned to this kind of study group. and it could result in their independent study. So it doesn't stop there. So I just thought I'd share that. Thank you.
Okay, we got a motion and we got a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, is there any more old or new business? Yes.
I never got an answer on my question about the Accountability Act. You guys went into a different subject.
The Accountability Act.
It was never legal.
CBC, does anyone want to address that?
I had requested that it be put on the agenda, which it was not, so I will go ahead and make a motion to rescind resolution number 0107-08.
Who did you make you made a request to put it on the agenda? I didn't see it.
That was put on there.
Was it via an email, text
And
message?
the reason why I...
Was it
Yes,
sent to us
yes,
via email and
yes,
text?
Yes.
CBC, did y'all see it?
Not to the CBC. It was to Jennifer.
Well, it
And
should
she-
be discussed in executive session.
She didn't put it on there, but I told her that I would bring it up under new or old business.
Well,
But the reason why I wanted to address this is that, yes, Tanisha, you're correct. The election's going to be coming up. I've always felt that this Accountability Act is just, there's no due process on any of it. You know, there were people that found out that they owed money to the tribe. Well, when they found out, they paid it. And so when they ran for office, they still wouldn't let them because they said that they couldn't run for 10 years. That's ridiculous. But anyway, that is, I feel like it is just, we have already incorporated a lot of these items into our Constitution for the qualifications to run for office. And this is the reason why it was set up this way. There was a purpose for this Accountability Act.
It's also incorporated in your HR policy.
What's the
Yeah.
date on the Accountability Act?
2017.
So this should be discussed amongst the CBC
But-
because it wasn't passed during our time.
I had asked about it a couple months back, and she has brought it up as well. This Accountability Act is incorporated in our HR policy, and people on WIOA, that's a federal program,
Yes.
they're being prevented from employment. I mean, we shouldn't be applying that in anything. I mean,
Okay.
you're hurting our tribal people. You're hurting the very people you represent. So why would you continue to allow that illegal piece of paper to stop someone from running? Y'all can't stop nobody from running. If they want
We're
to
not.
run, they can run, as long
We're
as
not
it's in
doing
the
it.
Constitution.
Okay, Mike?
Well, that was, following up on Alicia. You said something about the Constitution. So that was voted in 2017. Is that not part of the election ordinance?
No.
Accountability Act?
No, it never was. It was never part of the election ordinance.
Well, I understand the disagreement. Was affected highly, illegally by that act. When I submitted Freedom of Information Act request to show documentation that I owed the tribe some funds, CBC never responded for 2 years. You still can't respond. It's not your term at that time. So I understand completely why this Accountability Act is false legislation. But now, if you're going to amend this Accountability Act, you should amend it to affect those CBC members who stole land from us and who consistently lied to us and did not allow us due process under federal law.
And receive kickbacks?
And you should have something in place, I'm saying to CBC, since this is your resolution. If not, again, we have to adjust our Constitution to forbid land sales and to take legal action against those individuals who do so. By one single vote or a majority vote, they have no authority anymore to sell our land. And then to enact any false statement against any CBC member, we should be allowed to sue that person. And those individuals who lied to me hid under the cover of sovereignty. You can't sue me. Well, as an individual, I could sue you, but it takes a long time to get through the court. So our Constitution needs to define what they can and can't do, and what we can do to protect ourselves as individuals or as a community. Again, let's go back to the Constitutional Convention and wipe this out, but set parameters against those individuals who do such illegal action against the nation. Go ahead.
Okay.
But they need to be given due process.
We move this to executive session and discuss it, CBC.
Okay.
A second.
Second.
We got a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
One more thing. And then I'll shut up. I asked about the hemp resolution that you guys had passed last year sometime. What is the status of that?
Does anyone know the status of that?
I believe we don't have a license. We didn't apply for it prior to the deadline. That's my understanding.
Are we going to ever?
I believe the deadline came and went. I believe we'd have to purchase a license from someone.
What department does that fall
I think
under?
that's a question for Mr. Tadenappa.
Tax commission.
Falls under tax commission? Okay,
Tax
we'll follow up.
commission.
We'll follow up.
You apply for a license to USDA as a tribal government,
Correct.
and there's no end to it now. So the CBC can make application, but it should go under, not under your tax commission, because you're gonna end up getting payments from those individuals or companies that want to invest in industrial hemp. And there's a lot of companies that are willing to go with tribes. So at the same time, your Land Conservation Committee might be the best vehicle to put that hemp production under, and then conversely, the Constitution cannot forbid us individuals from using our land for industrial purposes. However, BIA gets involved, and they want all of this big revenue, research, and data to come forward when you just want to do 20 or 30 acres of hemp. So if the tribe would put legislation in to help us, individuals, to bring in industrial hemp, that would be the best option for everybody here, particularly those who have land holdings of 80 to 160 acres that can go co-jointly raise a lot of industrial hemp.
Well, not just hemp, but cannabis as a whole, because we're on the verge, the state of Oklahoma is on the verge of going recreational.
That still goes through FDA
Yes.
and
Yeah.
DEA.
So, yeah, sorry, I was wrong. I was thinking of cannabis, not hemp. Yeah.
OMMA put a 2-year, OMMA put a 2-year.
You need to speak in the mic because we're live.
OMMA, Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Association, put a 2-year block on dispensary opening, but would be wise for the tribe to start getting into the growing industry. That way, when we are able to open dispensaries, we can grow our own product and be purchasing from the tribe and not be purchasing from outside entities. And I do believe we should start supporting our current Comanche members that are thriving in the cannabis industry. Thank you. Brandy Heron.
Okay, if there is no further discussion, need a motion to go into executive session. Say again?
I've already made the
Okay,
motion.
can I get a second?
It was second.
Second, all in favor of executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are now in executive session. Please clear the room. Thank you.